Holy shit. He said what?
The Invictus Games are dead, and Harry and Meghan killed them.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle facing criticism as members of the Invictus Games Foundation reveal a growing frustration with the royal couple.
She is completely stealing the show. Her fashion displays, her PDA with Harry, it's insanely bad.
Imagine building something so powerful, it defines your public legacy, only to be rejected by it in the most humiliating way possible. That is exactly what just happened to Prince Harry. The Invictus Games, once celebrated as his crowning achievement, his lasting gift to veterans, has now turned into a stage of embarrassment and ridicule.
Harry has said multiple times he just wants to dedicate his life to the charities, but this year it has not gone well.
The very organization he founded has publicly dismissed his demands in a way so blunt, so cutting, that it has become a viral moment across the world. Harry, who once styled himself as the Soldier Prince, returned to the Games not with humility, but with a list of extraordinary demands for security, demands that included taxpayer-funded armed escorts, sniper positions, and restricted zones, all to shield him and Meghan from protesters and negative attention.
This is a former major in the British Army. He's well respected. He's part of the intelligence corps. He's called out the royal couple, labeling them as narcissists.
This wasn't about protecting global leaders or stopping genuine threats. This was about preventing hecklers with cardboard signs. And then came the crushing response. Dominic Reid, the CEO of Invictus, delivered a single devastating line. "This is a homecoming, not a battlefield. Do you still need security in your own home?" With that, the prince's pride unraveled, leaving his reputation in tatters.
Here's what he said. He said, "The wounded veterans of Invictus are done, utterly and irrevocably done with Harry and his wife."
There was a time when Prince Harry's name carried weight, not because of scandal, but because of service. The Invictus Games were born out of a noble vision to honor wounded veterans, to showcase resilience, and to create a global platform for courage. For years, Harry wore the mantle of Soldier Prince, admired for standing shoulder to shoulder with men and women who had actually faced bullets and bombs. Invictus was supposed to be his crown jewel.
Hello, Canada, and bienvenue. Today and for the next week, warriors unite.
If you look at it like the initial video of Harry doing the closing ceremony in 2014, there was a huge crowd. People were so excited. He got to read off a note from his grandmother. It was just a very, very exciting moment, an exciting event. People were thrilled.
But fast forward to today, and that shining image has completely collapsed. Instead of walking tall as the champion of veterans, Harry now arrives with demands that scream insecurity and privilege. He isn't remembered as the brave founder anymore. He's mocked as the paranoid exile clutching to relevance. The great irony: soldiers missing limbs still travel halfway across the world to compete with dignity, while Harry obsesses over protesters holding up signs. He built an event to glorify courage, yet now uses it to shelter his ego. The tragedy isn't hidden, it's painted across headlines.
They've seen war, they've faced death, they've dragged their broken bodies through fire and blood, and now they are expected to play supporting roles in the grotesque theater of two narcissists desperate for applause.
Once the proud face of sacrifice, Harry has reduced himself to a symbol of entitlement, proving that the Invictus Games grew grander while its founder grew smaller. When news of Harry's security request leaked, jaws dropped across Britain, not in sympathy, but in disbelief. It wasn't just a request, it was a royal-style shopping list that screamed arrogance. Armed taxpayer-funded escorts, rooftop snipers, barricaded protest-free zones. Harry wanted the full king-in-waiting treatment for a man who quite literally walked away from the crown.
In the last 2 years, over 2,000 members of the Invictus Games have quit because it's traumatizing.
This wasn't standard protocol, and certainly not standard for a sports event built on humility. This was Harry trying to wrap himself in a bubble of privilege. And the most insulting part, the reason behind it: not real danger, not intelligence warnings, just fear of hecklers with placards and chants. Veterans who had their legs blown off in Afghanistan were expected to push through pain and fly across continents without complaint. But Harry, protected by multiple mansions in California, couldn't handle the thought of a few protest banners. It's the kind of absurdity that turns concern into comedy.
They're very upset about feeling kind of used by the couple for, again, good PR.
In that moment, it became painfully clear. Harry wasn't acting like a founder returning home to celebrate resilience. He was acting like a tourist demanding VIP treatment in a country he abandoned. The security he wanted wasn't about safety, it was about ego, and everyone saw straight through it. Harry may have come in with his inflated demands, but the Invictus CEO, Dominic Reid, cut him down with just one line. No rehearsed speech, no public relations sugarcoating, just a brutal, perfectly crafted slap of reality. When asked about Harry's requests for rooftop snipers and restricted zones, Reid didn't even even blink. His response, "This is a homecoming, not a battlefield. Do you still need security in your own home?" That single sentence carried more weight than every speech Harry has given in the last 5 years.
She knows that in 2027, she wants all eyes on her. She wants the royal family to be at the Invictus Games. So if she can kind of be the star of the Invictus Games in 2 years' time, that gives her another 5 years of press, of deals and money making. So it's all part of a grand plan, I think.
And just like that, the so-called founder of the Invictus Games was turned into a punchline. Within hours, the quote had gone viral. Social media turned it into memes. Headlines carried it worldwide, and Harry's ego was stripped bare for everyone to see. While veterans trained their bodies beyond breaking point to compete, the man who built the stage was being laughed at for asking protection from cardboard signs. It was poetic, almost Shakespearean. The organization born from Harry's military story had now become the stage that mocked his fragility. Soldiers returned from war with scars and medals. Harry returned to Invictus with excuses and demands, and got publicly humiliated by his own creation.
Looking at the videos and everything, you couldn't help but notice that the crowd sizes are really, really small.
Behind closed doors, frustration inside the Invictus Foundation has been simmering for years, but Harry's latest stunt finally lit the fuse. What was once proudly marketed as Prince Harry's Games is now being quietly rebranded as the Veterans Games. That single shift in language tells you everything. The trustees, the CEO, even the wounded warriors themselves, none of them want to carry Harry's drama anymore. They built these events to shine a light on sacrifice and recovery, not to babysit a runaway royal demanding red carpet treatment. The whispers are out in the open now. Key members reportedly want Harry sidelined. Some committees are even planning schedules and opening ceremonies with little to no role for him at all.
Veterans are actually pretty annoyed with Harry and with Meghan.
Meghan's attempts to sneak into the spotlight haven't helped. They were brushed aside firmly because Invictus belongs to the veterans, not to Hollywood audition tapes. And the veterans themselves, they see through it. They can smell entitlement from a mile away, and Harry reeks of it. These men and women walked through gunfire. They don't need lectures from someone hiding from booing crowds. The bottom line, Invictus no longer needs Harry. In fact, the games are stronger the further they drag themselves away from him. If Harry thought the British people would quietly accept his demands, he couldn't have miscalculated more. Polls made it crystal clear. Nearly 70% of Britons flatly rejected the idea of paying for his security. The public didn't just disagree, they were outraged.
At first, it was really great. It was really all about the veterans, and that's it. He was very hands-on, and then there became Megxit.
After all, here was a man who abandoned his official duties, moved into a Californian mansion worth millions, signed multi-million deals, and still had the audacity to stick his hand back into the pockets of UK taxpayers. The hypocrisy was too insulting to ignore. The tabloids had a field day, branding him a prince in exile begging for perks. Social media tore him apart with brutal one-liners. A soldier terrified of posters, king of entitlement, Netflix flop needing snipers. The mockery spread like wildfire, and Harry's image sank from fallen hero to national punchline. Even his own brother, Prince William, reportedly wanted no part of this circus, keeping his distance from what he allegedly saw as a self-absorbed charade. And the palace? Silent. They didn't bother to defend him, not even with the usual soft statements. Harry stood alone, stripped of goodwill, mocked by the very public he wanted taxpayer money from. In Britain's eyes, his crown jewel had become a crown joke.
Archetypes not researched the people that they were giving money to properly, and they had given over $50,000 to a woman who really is anti-Israel.
Invictus wasn't just another project for Harry. It was the last jewel in a crown he willingly smashed. After Netflix deals fizzled, Spotify dumped him, and Hollywood tired of his victim stories, Invictus was all he had left to prove he was more than a tabloid headline. It was his final lifeline, a legacy untouched by scandals. But thanks to his arrogance, even that rope is slipping through his fingers. For years, the games were tied to Harry's name. Now the games are thriving despite him, not because of him. The branding is shifting, the spotlight fixed firmly on the veterans, and slowly but surely the message is spreading. Invictus doesn't need Harry. The stage works perfectly without him. In fact, it feels lighter, more authentic, once his shadow isn't hanging over it. That's the greatest insult of all. His proudest achievement has grown bigger than him, and it has outgrown his ego. The irony cuts deep. Here is a man who called Invictus his life's work, but his behavior has turned him into a liability that the games no longer want to carry. Harry wanted Invictus to secure his legacy. Instead, Invictus is securing its own future by leaving him behind. For the veterans, Invictus was never about celebrity glamour. It was about sweat, pain, and dignity. And that's exactly why Harry's latest antics have gone down like a lead balloon among the very people the games were built for.
Every meeting and every sort of repatriation with Harry carries a huge risk because every conversation could end up in a podcast or a book, and there's no confidentiality clearly around what's being shared with them and Harry and Meghan. So
many veterans, quietly but firmly, have started voicing what the public already sees. Harry has turned their platform into a stage for his insecurity. Imagine being a soldier who learned to walk again after losing both legs in Afghanistan, only to see the founder crying about protesters with placards. It's insulting. Veterans who faced actual battlefields watched Harry comparing hecklers to threats, and their patience snapped. One former competitor reportedly said Harry turned Invictus into a vanity shield, not a tribute to warriors. And he isn't wrong. The hypocrisy is blinding. Harry once stood in uniform, saluting the wounded, talking about resilience. Now he hides behind demands, using fear as cover for ego. These men and women bled for their countries. Harry bled for headlines. And the message coming from the community is ruthless but clear. They are done babysitting him.
Put the bill to Parliament now. Just strip them.
Well, this is
Just
it.
strip them of their titles. I'm done. I'm done.
For the first time, wounded soldiers are the ones walking taller, while the prince who founded it all looks smaller than ever. Prince Harry once believed Invictus would forever secure his legacy, a shining monument to sacrifice and resilience that would carry his name long after the scandals faded. But instead of protecting that legacy, he smothered it with ego and paranoia. What once symbolized courage now embarrassingly mirrors his own insecurity. Veterans march forward with scars of real battles, while Harry trembles at the thought of cardboard signs. That contrast says it all. Invictus has grown beyond him. The spotlight belongs solely to the men and women who earned it with blood, grit, and sacrifice. The foundation, the trustees, and the soldiers have reclaimed their stage, leaving Harry stranded on the outskirts. His desperate security demands and the CEO's brutal rejection made clear what many feared. The soldier prince is gone, replaced by a fragile figure clinging to perks he no longer owns. The story of Invictus is now one of resilience without him and humiliation with him. But this collapse didn't come out of nowhere. The cracks in Harry and Meghan's fairy tale have been there all along, hiding just beneath the polished public image. In fact, one royal photographer already exposed it years ago. To fully understand how this downfall was years in the making, watch my breakdown only on Star Spotlight.